There is a realm of strength that only awakens when a woman decides she has had enough of fear, doubt, delay, and betrayal. When a chosen woman starts praying hard, she's not just talking to God. She is activating ancient authority that was placed inside her long before the world tried to silence her. Her prayers are not weak whispers. They are spiritual commands that shake invisible systems, uproot hidden blockages, and call destiny back into alignment. This is the moment she realizes that prayer is not a religious routine. It is a warfare tool, a rebuilding force, and a divine connection that turns an ordinary woman into a spiritual force. A chosen woman does not pray for entertainment. She prays because she has walked through fire and survived. She prays because she has been broken, betrayed, delayed, misunderstood, and still refused to die. When she prays hard, something shifts. Her spirit becomes louder than her pain. Her faith becomes stronger than her fear. And her calling begins to rise. What she unlocks in that prayer room is not just peace. She unlocks power, authority, clarity, favor, and divine protection that no enemy can touch. The power of spiritual authority. When a chosen woman starts praying hard, the first power she unlocks is spiritual authority. She stops begging life for permission and starts commanding alignment. Her words stop being wishes and start becoming declarations. Darkness begins to recognize her voice. Fear loses its grip. Generational chains begin to crack. She no longer feels small in the presence of challenges because she realizes that heaven backs her prayers. Her atmosphere shifts because she has learned how to speak from her spirit, not from her pain. This power is not something that comes through talent or personality. It is built in the hidden place, away from applause and recognition. Spiritual authority is born when she kneels consistently, even when she is tired, discouraged, unseen, or misunderstood. It grows when she cries out to God in moments where quitting would be easier. Over time, her spirit becomes trained. Her voice becomes firm. Her presence changes. Rooms respond differently when she enters. Situations begin to bend when she speaks, not because of ego, but because of alignment. She realizes she doesn't need to fight every battle with noise. Sometimes her silence carries more strength than shouting. When she prays, she doesn't just speak words. She releases law into the spiritual realm. Chaos settles, confusion clears, resistance weakens. She doesn't argue with storms, she commands peace. Her spiritual authority becomes visible in the way she walks, the way she talks, and the way she reacts under pressure. People start sensing something different about her. They may not understand it, but they feel it. She becomes a woman who cannot be intimidated, shaken, or silenced. She knows who she is. She knows who sent her. And because of that, she moves with calm dominance in spaces that once made her feel small. 2. The power of divine discernment. Heavy prayer sharpens her spiritual eyes. She begins to see through fake smiles, hidden intentions, and silent traps. She doesn't need to ask for signs from people anymore, because God starts whispering clarity into her spirit. She becomes harder to deceive and impossible to manipulate because she can now sense danger before it arrives. Her spirit becomes her compass, and her intuition is sharpened by divine insight. This discernment is not suspicion or fear-driven judgment. It is spiritual awareness. It comes from spending long hours in quiet surrender, where her soul becomes sensitive to truth. She stops ignoring red flags. She stops explaining away gut feelings. She learns to trust the subtle warnings that rise within her. When something feels wrong, she no longer tolerates it for the sake of comfort, familiarity, or loneliness. She begins to feel when energy is heavy. She can discern when words are coated in deception. She can detect jealousy behind smiles and danger behind friendly gestures. This doesn't make her paranoid. It makes her protected. She walks with wisdom. She chooses her environment carefully. She guards her peace with precision. Her prayers begin to expose what her eyes cannot see. She is no longer drawn to things that look good, but are empty within. She becomes immune to charm without character. She is no longer impressed by surface beauty or loud promises. She values depth, truth, and alignment. This power becomes her shield. Many traps never touch her because she senses them before they can trap her. Many wolves never reach her because she recognizes their footsteps early. What once confused her now becomes clear. What once trapped her now repels her. Her discernment becomes her silent protection system. 3. The power of emotional mastery. A chosen woman who prays deeply no longer becomes a slave to emotions. She still feels pain, but the pain no longer controls her. She learns how to cry and still stand. She learns how to feel disappointment without losing direction. Her prayers regulate her soul. Her tears become healing waters instead of weakness. She becomes calm in chaos, steady in storms, and peaceful in rooms that once drained her. This emotional mastery is not emotional suppression. It is emotional government. She learns that she does not have to react to everything she feels. She gives herself permission to feel without allowing feelings to lead her. She develops a sacred pause between stimulus and response. She breathes. She prays. She centers herself. Her prayers become emotional therapy for her spirit. Instead of exploding, she releases. Instead of internalizing pain, she surrenders it. She stops placing her healing in the hands of people who lack the capacity to help her. She goes straight to God, the source of real restoration. She learns how to be disappointed without becoming bitter. She learns how to be hurt without becoming hateful. She learns how to experience loss without losing herself. Her emotional intelligence becomes spiritual maturity. She becomes emotionally stable in environments that would once send her spiraling. She no longer allows moods to dictate her movement. She becomes consistent, anchor-like, steady. People around her feel safe because she no longer operates from chaos. She has mastered the ability to feel deeply while standing firmly. Her prayers have trained her soul to respond with wisdom instead of reaction. The power of divine protection. When she prays hard, she becomes spiritually guarded. Not everything meant to destroy her can come near her anymore. Delayed accidents, blocked attacks, cancelled disasters, and reversed traps begin to happen silently around her life. She walks covered, watched, and defended. Things that could have broken her simply miss her. This is the invisible shield that activates when a chosen woman learns how to cover herself in prayer. This protection is not always loud or visible. In fact, most of the time she never realizes what was stopped, diverted, or destroyed behind the scenes. She does not see the accidents that almost happened. She never meets the people who would have harmed her. She is unaware of the doors that could have led to destruction, but were mysteriously closed. Her prayers build a wall around her destiny. It becomes difficult for evil to locate her. It becomes hard for traps to attach to her. What was programmed to slow her down gets intercepted. What was meant to break her loses direction. She begins to experience divine redirection. Missed buses, cancelled plans, sudden delays, and later realizes they were protection in disguise. Her spiritual coverage doesn't make life perfect, but it makes her life preserved. She walks through days with a supernatural covering. She sleeps with peace, not because there is no danger, but because danger cannot touch what God has fortified. Her prayer life becomes her armor, her shield, and her invisible defense system. The power of supernatural confidence. Her confidence stops coming from looks, money, validation, or approval. It comes from knowing she is heard by God. She walks differently. She speaks differently. She carries herself with quiet fire. She doesn't compete because she knows she is chosen. She doesn't beg because she knows she is called. Her posture changes, her energy shifts, and her presence becomes undeniable. This confidence is not prideful or arrogant. It is deeply rooted in spiritual assurance. She no longer measures herself by the world's standards. Approval from others no longer dictates her sense of worth. Instead, her sense of self is tied to her connection with the divine. When she prays, she is reminded that she is chosen, called, and backed by heaven itself. This knowledge creates an inner strength that radiates outward, affecting every interaction, every relationship, and every opportunity she steps into. Her presence becomes magnetic. People sense the difference immediately. They may not understand it, but they feel it. Her confidence does not need loud announcements. It is quiet, steady, and undeniable. She can walk into a room where others are frantic or anxious, and her calm energy naturally commands respect. It is a confidence born of surrender, obedience, and deep trust in God's plan for her life. This supernatural confidence protects her from insecurity, jealousy, and comparison. She does not need to compete because she knows her calling is unique and cannot be replicated. She does not need to argue for recognition because divine validation surpasses human acknowledgement. She can face challenges, speak boldly, and take risks knowing her path is ordained. People may doubt her, dismiss her, or oppose her, but her confidence remains unshaken. It is a spiritual armor that allows her to move boldly in spaces where fear once held her back. The power of destiny acceleration. Prayer becomes a spiritual acceleration button. What was stuck begins to move. What was slow begins to speed up. Opportunities begin to locate her. Helpers appear out of nowhere. Systems start aligning in her favor. Doors that stayed shut for years begin to open without stress. This is because prayer doesn't just calm her. It repositions her spiritually and physically into her appointed time. This acceleration is not coincidental. It is divine timing manifesting because she has tuned herself to the frequency of God's plan. Her prayers shift her perspective and her actions. She begins to notice opportunities that others miss. She is guided toward relationships, partnerships, and resources that she never could have found alone. What was delayed begins to flow. What was resisted begins to align. She understands that her patience, combined with prayer, is a catalyst for breakthroughs. Her life begins to reflect spiritual momentum. Doors she knocked on for years suddenly swing open. Situations she once struggled with resolve almost effortlessly. This acceleration doesn't always happen loudly. Sometimes it is subtle, quiet, and only noticeable in hindsight. But the results are undeniable. Her timing begins to sync with divine orchestration. She stops forcing outcomes. She stops hustling blindly. Instead, she steps into rhythm with heaven, allowing her life to move faster and smoother than before. She learns that her prayers are not just requests, they are activations. They call forth her destiny, ignite her purpose, and remove barriers strategically. What once seemed impossible now becomes natural. She experiences a spiritual and practical alignment that pushes her closer to her calling every single day. The power of generational healing. When a chosen woman prays hard, she doesn't just heal herself, she breaks patterns. She rewrites bloodline stories. Cycles of poverty, abuse, abandonment, and limitation begin to lose power. Her prayers reach backward into her lineage and forward into her children's future. She becomes the turning point of her family. What stopped those before her will not stop those who come after her. Generational healing is one of the most profound powers unlocked through consistent prayer. She becomes a conduit for restoration and liberation that spans decades. She confronts ancestral pain, inherited trauma, and cycles of self-sabotage in her family line, not by dwelling in shame, but by lifting her voice in prayer. Her petitions echo into the spiritual fabric of her bloodline, dismantling invisible chains that have bound generations. She realizes her healing is not selfish, it is revolutionary. Every tear, every whispered word, every moment spent crying out to God becomes a seed planted for the future. What once seemed like a recurring curse, financial instability, broken relationships, addiction, fear, loses its grip on her descendants. She stands as proof that prayer can rewrite destinies, that divine intervention can transform legacies, and that one person's spiritual commitment can reshape the trajectory of a family for generations. Her faith grows because she sees results ripple beyond her life. She begins to walk with a greater sense of purpose, knowing that her obedience impacts more than her own story. The prayers she prays become spiritual blueprints for her lineage. What she plants today blossoms in her children's lives tomorrow. She becomes a living testimony that prayer carries the power not only to heal, but to transform the course of history for those who come after her. The power of fearlessness in isolation. A praying woman stops fearing loneliness. She begins to understand that isolation is not punishment. It's preparation. She becomes strong alone, focused alone, and peaceful alone. She stops chasing people and starts attracting purpose. Her solitude turns into a sanctuary where God downloads strength, wisdom, and vision into her heart. Isolation becomes her teacher. She learns that being alone is not a void, but a sacred space where she meets God more intimately. In the quiet, she hears truths that are drowned out by the noise of the world. In solitude, she sharpens her mind, heals her spirit, and strengthens her resolve. She discovers that dependence on human validation is temporary, but dependence on God is eternal. She begins to thrive in spaces where she once felt abandoned. She no longer fears the empty chair, the unanswered call, or the silent room. Instead, she uses these moments to align with her purpose. She meditates, she prays, she listens, and she grows. Isolation becomes an empowerment tool rather than a punishment. It becomes a crucible where her faith is refined, her vision is clarified, and her spirit is strengthened. People begin to notice her difference, but she no longer chases approval. Her focus is on the divine, and her actions flow from her alignment with God's plan. She becomes self-reliant in ways that attract others naturally, without need or desperation. Her fearlessness in isolation makes her unshakable in community, unstoppable in her pursuits, and unwavering in her spiritual walk. The power of unshakable faith. At the highest level, she unlocks unshakable faith. This is not loud faith, but grounded faith. Even when results delay, she doesn't panic. Even when storms rise, she doesn't quit. She knows that if God said it, it must happen. Her spirit becomes rooted. Her hope becomes solid. Her patience becomes powerful. She no longer fears timing. She trusts it. Unshakable faith is cultivated through seasons of waiting, testing, and perseverance. She has seen God move in ways that defy human logic. She has prayed when no one else was praying with her. She has believed when circumstances screamed otherwise. Her faith does not waver with the opinions of others, the pressures of life, or the delays in manifestation. It is a steadfast anchor for her soul. Even when storms rage, she stands firm. Even when promises seem delayed, she remains confident. Her faith is quiet but powerful, like deep roots gripping fertile soil. It transforms her perspective, making her immune to panic, anxiety, and fear. She understands that timing is a divine mechanism, not a human error. Her prayers are not contingent on speed, they're aligned with eternity. Her unshakable faith allows her to move forward boldly, take risks strategically, and endure challenges gracefully. She becomes a beacon of hope to others who falter. People are drawn to her because they see trust personified. Her presence carries calm certainty. Through prayer, persistence, and divine alignment, she becomes an unmovable force, fully convinced that God's promises never fail, and that the life prepared for her cannot be stolen, delayed, or diminished. If this message found you at the exact time your spirit needed strength, let it be a sign that your prayer life is about to shift your destiny. If you feel this word deep in your soul, subscribe to this channel and walk with us on this journey of spiritual power and purpose. This is the Woman of Light channel. If this message reached you at the perfect moment, type 11 in the comment section and receive divine blessings, protection, and supernatural favor over your life. You are not ordinary. You are chosen, and your prayers are unlocking your next level. Thank you for watching.